Greetings, sending you all some warm, positive vibrations. This is Body-Culinary, and I wanted to check in with you all before I head off to the market. So this morning, I wanted to have a chat about fashion and style in the same vein as sanity. Fashion and style with sanity, basically not compromising our mental and emotional stability for the sake of fashion and someone else's made up moving goalposts of beauty. I'd also like to touch in on just some ideas on how to style yourself for practical prosperity and self-esteem. Right. I also wanted to share some cruelty-free fashion, some cruelty-free shoes. So let me first of all say I'm not anti makeup. I'm not. I'm not anti makeup, though my priorities. There's so much out here now, especially with the internet. There is so much that we have access to, so much. It can be dizzying the amount of choices that we have. There's so many opportunities for you to spend your money, to overspend. There is so much opportunity to be overstimulated to the point where, and you can let me know what you think in the comments, where you may be experiencing an anxiety from looking at the internet. What do I mean by an anxiety? And in fact, a triggered anxiety. What I mean is when you turn on these screens and you see what everyone else is doing and what everyone else is wearing, there is a response or reaction. Usually we just start comparing ourselves to everyone, what everyone else's hair looks like, what their age is, what they seem to have, what their relationship or what their life seems to look like. So we can perhaps make this observation without beating up or judging ourselves or other people. If nothing else, simply because that's not effective. So the goal, I would think, I know for me, is to be effective in my life, to accomplish the things I want to accomplish and to experience the things that I want to experience. Greetings. So I want to be effective. Though I think a lot of times we don't reverse engineer and we're not encouraged to go to the root, of things, right? It's very easy to get triggered and to become very polarized and to jump on the bandwagon of a leader, a religious leader, a political leader, a celebrity, and we can get really lost in it. I really think that we grossly underestimate how much we are affected by the emotions that are stimulated when we're watching these screens. In contrast, first of all, have you ever heard of forest bathing? It's something you can look up online. And hopefully, if you come down to spend some time with me, we will be experiencing some forest bathing or at least some very deep quiet in nature. It's actually really, really profound. But you can look up forest bathing online. This climate that we're in, I really think that it can trigger a lot of mental, emotional instability that's coming at lightning speed in terms of the way our subconscious processes information, everything that's hitting the eye, that's hitting the nose, that's hitting the ears. We're processing, we're making meaning out of it. It's affecting our decision making. It's often triggering fears like the fear of loss of love or never finding love, fear of poverty, the fear of illness and old age, the fearness of death, the fear of criticism. These are primal fears that humans have across the board, and they're often being triggered. I heard a gentleman say today, like he was so irritated, he coined it perfectly. He said he was in the airport and he was traveling for business, and he said everybody is peddling fear. He's like, I'm so sick of it. And I really thought of it. It's like, instead of just selling solutions or practical solutions, we're often inspired because one of the very powerful fears that motivates us is pleasure or avoidance of pain. And it's triggered quite often through fear psychologically, the things that we're seeing. You can be triggered to think, I have to look a certain way, I'll never be in a relationship. Or if I don't buy this product, or I have to do what everyone else is doing in order to garner attention. So it's really deep. It's a whole science. There's a whole science around how we can be triggered to move, to do different things, to without judgment, right? You're by yourself in your quiet moments, but to hurt someone, to follow someone blindly without vetting or doing proper or thorough research, we are very reactionary creatures. And in this information age, where so much is coming at us, it's very challenging to manage and organize and make meaning of it all thoroughly, where we're really thinking things through. So, fashion style sanity. I wanted to say this to folks, definitely to women. We're some of the biggest consumers on the planet. Definitely the Afro woman's dollar. We spend a lot of money. This is not new information. Yet I figured out and realized many years ago, knowing something intellectually is not enough for us to make a change, right? It's not necessarily. We can know something is healthy, yet we fill our lungs with toxic smoke, which we do things that is absolutely nonsensical because a lot of our behaviors are driven by the subconscious. So I would like to use the example of, well, from my own experience, I've spent so many thousands of dollars when I first started making my own money as a young woman. And I was reading all these magazines. One of the first things that we do is we want to go out and purchase all of these things that we didn't have or that the people around us don't have because we want to be different. And I'm not going to demonize fashion and dressing up and makeup because I enjoy those things too. Yet when I look at, I love distinctions. Here's the distinction, is that conversations for us, I can definitely say culturally, where when I look at my background, a conversation that was not had was the trajectory of our lives with examples and not from a place of fear. Around, for example, the years between your 20s and your 30s will set the tone for how you're living in your late 40s and 50s. And it will set the tone for who you choose to partner with, how you choose to parent. It can really affect whether or not you will enjoy parenting. We're keeping numerous cycles going. And really importantly, we don't have a lot of conversations about the final, that's how I can put it, the final 25 years of our lives. Now, I don't want you to think of this from a place of fear. I invite you to think about this from a space of practicality. All relationships don't end. You may be in several relationships. Many women, we don't make decisions to secure ourselves. We're not necessarily counseled on practical, smart decisions. And any kind of inkling of that usually only comes through religion. And it is still very fear-based. So you can see this played out in how it is not prioritized the health of our reproductive organs and our mental emotional health. How much more resources, how much more joy could we have if we just didn't make certain decisions from the get-go? And I've always wondered from a younger age, what would it take for us to have a shift, for example, in us really getting it that it's really not worth it for me to put my reproductive organs in harm's way, or to make my mental, emotional, and my physical body available to the unvetted, the immature, and the unsafe. And let me know, I would love to know what other folks' thoughts are. What would have to occur differently, right? Even though when you're younger, you don't have the life experience yet, do we always have to wait until we've done irreparable damage to ourselves for us to get it? I think that there's something off with that. And I think it's a tremendous waste of time. For example, you see on social media, there's a lot of body positivity, which I think is great. in the context of really accepting and loving, appreciating, and demonstrating that appreciation through actions, the body temple that you have now, right? If it has scars, stretch marks, if it's fluffier, and so on. Yet, when you look at the aftermath of so many years of uninformed and poor decisions, we do a lot, we do tremendous damage to ourselves, tremendous damage, right? Some of the things that we're having now to take out of our bodies, or some of the things that our bodies are rejecting that we're putting in electively. Some of this is not even due to, let's say, things like cancer and so on. We have so much to contend with already, but we're subjecting ourselves to alterations and engagements that are unsafe with other people. Do you ever question, where does that come from? And are you just bouncing it around as a young person in your own mind, uninformed? So unfortunately, many of us will make life-altering decisions for ourselves and also that of our offspring and children in ignorance and without a frame of reference, and not realizing or not really acknowledging that we're mimicking the pictures and the images and the music that we're listening to. I mean, it's obvious, and it seems like we're in such denial about that. We don't acknowledge that we're affected. So am I saying you can't listen to what you? No, I don't really have the power, nor do I want the power over anyone to say that. Though discernment, these words are being thrown out, like the words narcissist and all of these terms are there, but somehow there's still a disconnect, and you can see it in our decision making. So long story short, you can save so much money by buying vintage. All that to say, you can save so much money by buying vintage. You can save yourself so much heartache and so much off your medical and health expenses by having and committing to a personal movement practice. That can save you so much on therapy, poor decision making. We're not thinking long term of the big picture and modeling for our children certain behaviors, whereas we may not be in a certain position as a collective economically. How could we leverage it? We seem to think that we can only leverage our position by acquiring more things, and that's not necessarily so. So let's say, for example, a lot of the channels here, you can see so many channels, or I think the term is influencers, that have rooms full of bags and shoes and all of these things. And again, I love fashion, but if I look back, a lot of it, I would have to say, was wasted. I enjoyed having the experience, but a lot of it was clutter. Towards me getting rid of a lot of that stuff, I felt suffocated by having so much stuff. In contrast, I can enjoy fashion, good quality fashion, vintage. That's a lot of money. That's a lot. There's so much music, and I'm a music lover, but I'm so distinct. A lot of the content and the context of the music to me is so offensive, is so toxic, illustrates so much self-hatred and lack of care. I could never bring myself to purchase any of that music. I can't relate. I have no desire to relate to anything that would put me in harm's way or put children in harm's way. And it's such a refusal to acknowledge and to accept responsibility and accountability. Those seem to be two things that are missing. I'm not talking about sainthood, but even for your own benefit, accountability and responsibility benefits you. Making poor decisions is going to cost you so much money. It sets you back so far. It's going to compromise a lot of your enjoyment. And as a species, we have such a desire for validation, and I understand where it comes from, that often that desire to fit in and for validation supersedes good judgment and decision making that keeps us out of harm's way, decision making that provides a space for us to make investment type decisions, investments with looking at the character of who you're you're spending your time with, to look to see if you have reciprocal relationships with you and the other people. You're just basically getting something back positive. We are inspiring each other, here's my litmus test, to get into action around the things that you say that you value. And some of it is so simple. We seem to be overlooking, or something is just not computing. It's just not computing. We can say the words discernment all day long, but it's just not computing. It can even be a source, seem to be a source of irritation to others, to have a conversation around personal accountability and getting into action. To some people, it may even seem boring, but yet that's where most of our results lie. So styling yourself, I have a video I'm gonna put out. So again, this is not a style channel. I don't have a whole bunch of products for you. My hair is kinky and nappy. I was just playing in some clothes that I had thrifted. This feels like peace to me. Again, I want to make clear I can appreciate makeup. I can appreciate makeup palettes. However, in contrast, this is just my personal experience. If when it's 100 degrees, it's not even practical for me to wear a whole lot of makeup. Sometimes when it's raining, it's actually beautiful to get caught in the rain in the garden. Like, I feel like it's such a more fulfilling experience. So it doesn't have to be either or. Yet only you can decide what your priorities are and the things that you're participating on in what they leave you with. Do we just have a whole lot of stuff that's superficial on the outside, yet our desire for more and more and more, that's seemingly insatiable, that would seem to say that something is not hitting. It's kind of like when we have to take 20 million vitamins and everything is fortified cereals, fortified milk, fortified juice. That would seem to say to me that the food that I'm eating is very subpar and substandard. If I have to take this many vitamins, that would seem to say that I never go out and get the sun on my skin consistently. It's just very limited. Y'all let me know what you think in the comments. So I think it would be wonderful, or I'd like to invite Flowers to consider, rather than spending money on more, learning about styling principles. For example, when you're younger, you think a lot about squeezing into the bodycon dresses. And this is something I see consistently. We think that it's more attractive. It definitely garners attention. We put a lot out there. Again, this is not to shame. I can say this for myself. At the same time, we get all kinds of energy. And maybe perhaps you've experimented in this. When you change your dress, that you get different types of responses in business, how you're treated. If you're looking for land, if you're about to make a business deal, you're starting a business deal. Sometimes, and I can be very resistant to it. I'll be very honest with you. I love to be very, very comfortable. Yet, even if you've groomed yourself, if people perceive that you look, for example, homeless, you get treated a certain kind of way. As humans, we make judgments. We can say that we don't, but we do. I think there is a distinction between judgment in the context of discernment and judgment in the sense of being condemning or criticizing. Critique, I think, is even distinct from criticizing someone. So the social media has folks very brave and reckless and just non-compassionate, not considerate about other people's feelings, because you have the anonymity of a screen to hide before. So we just type, and have these long conversations when it's highly unlikely that we would say half of these things to people's face. And even if the people were on our face, what good would it do? It's somebody else's life. We're just so fixated on other people's life. But I get it. It provides a distraction from many of the things that we're fearful of, or that we don't want to deal with, or that we are ignoring, right? For example, in your quiet moment, you can ask yourself, is there anything that I'm pretending not to know? Is there anything that I could be getting into action around that I'm not doing? Is there anywhere where I'm not being honest to myself? So that kind of introspection, quite often, I know for me, will make me want to be quiet and just go humbly to my garden and handle my business and do my mind your own business fitness, right? Which is actually a much better use of my time. Though these screens and the music, I would say it's trance-like, it invites trance. And hypnosis is really just to be in a trance. So when we're eating mindlessly, from my perspective, I mean, that's a trance. That's hypnotic. Usually, if I'm eating mindlessly, I don't eat junk food at this point. Even if it was several avocados, I notice that these screens entice us to worry. You get so sucked in. I think it's a lot of anxiety, a space of anxiety that we're eating from. So these are not conversations that are had, all the time. So I'm going to share. I'm going to share it in a video coming up. I have to run to the market because it's late for me. This is a cute little pair of shoes. I prioritize comfort. Comfort, I want to look stylish, but I like style too. And I don't get the best quality shoes where I'm at. Actually, I find vintage is much better quality, but I think these are so cute. The heel is walkable. It have to be cute. I like to say sensual and attractive and functional because I have stuff to do. I need to get down the street. And when I'm traveling quite often, there are such massive hills that it's like getting on a stairmill when you're walking up and down the hill. I don't know how people can get up and down the hill, these hills over here with these stilettos on, right? But these are functional and cute. These are so inexpensive, right? And they're cruelty free. Now, I will say recently I've been wearing cruelty-free footwear for years, for many years now. And recently in my travels, someone was selling some really a lot of times the fast fashion when you travel is not the greatest quality. All right, it's hard to find good shoes. So somebody was selling some really good quality vintage shoes, but I noticed one of them weren't vegan, but he was selling them for such a great price. I said, can I justify that? And for the first time in years, I said, I think I can. 2 pairs of shoes that would be like $350 that were previously owned or used for like less than $10. I was like, that's a good value because to make use of what is already here, I think that's justifiable. I don't know. I've often considered as a person that gets freezing cold to go back into colder environments. This is only rare. It's only one type of microfiber that I found that will keep me warm inside the winter. And I paid a lot of money for this coat in the effort to be like staunch, vegan, and cruelty free. So I'm not here to pass judgment on folks. It's for us. It's for you in your quiet moments to decide on your standards for yourself. So there's so much. It is still possible, though we'll take some research, it is still possible to travel. It is still possible to create some other opportunities for land, whether that's working or leasing land, whether that's in the United States in some areas, in some areas overseas, whereas in your area, it might not be, in your view to be able to own something, right? If you have some vision, that might not even be on everybody's radar if that's not a conversation you are exposed to, or you could, as many people are in a cycle, especially with the cost of living, which was really high before so-called so vid, right? But many folks are just working are in a loop of paying for expensive, and it's costly. So freeing up a lot of things, taking a lot of things off of the table, I have found very freeing emotionally. I find it can alleviate a lot of stress, right? Worrying about what am I going to wear? What are people going to think about my hair and blah, blah, blah. It's too much to be so performative for strangers and folks who have not been vetted. There are opportunities to garden, yes, in cold environments. And, I think it's so interesting, the climate, and not to be dismissive of trauma or things that have happened to you, but the kind of defeatist, or it's like it's already over, or like you might as well eat whatever because we're all going to die. It has a tone to it that's very defeatist, and almost I want to say like I've been victimized and now there's no way that I can escape what has happened to me. It's a very draining tone. It doesn't leave space for possibilities. Doesn't leave space for possibilities. So through simple lifestyle practices, you can free yourself up. Again, I'm not the hair police. I'm not the food police. I'm not here to tell people what to do. And I don't invite folks to jump on board, following a whole bunch of folks to tell you what to do, because that can be very enticing too. Because in the long term, especially when you're younger, you don't realize what you're giving up to when you give people power to make decisions. Though when you're making decisions, you will have to be accountable. And that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of weight. But avoiding that can keep you in suspended animation and immaturity. Well, you never mature to be able to make mature investment type decisions, right? For example, to maybe perhaps really save for the things you want to spend for, or to find other ways. Like one of my homies back in the day told me about consignment shops. Now we see more of a movement towards using recycled clothing. But I had a friend that told me about consignment shops years ago, where you can get really high-end quality things. Also, I think for many women of color, definitely as Afro women, we have a tendency, when we don't understand styling principles, to buy a lot of things that don't fit us, right? We may not understand how to style for our height, or if you have more adipose tissue around your waistline, or understanding the proportions. And so the clothing may not fit us just right, like the models that we see, right? If you look at a lot of, let's say, Italian fashion, or if you look at cultures where fashion is really cultural, it's built into the culture. Even I've studied a lot of French fashion. Isn't it interesting? I found it interesting that many French women don't wear designer clothes. They don't purchase all the designer stuff. And it's interesting, a lot of the pop culture and hip hop music pushes Balenciaga, and which has had a lot of controversy. I don't even know these brands, by the way. I've just heard them mentioned. And the Gucci and Louis Vuitton, I remember when I wanted to get a Louis Vuitton clutch bag and I got imitations and stuff. Once I did go in and buy a Gucci bag, but it was ridiculous. It wasn't relative to my life. So I can admit that I was following. We follow. I think sometimes, well, often, when you in your quiet moments, it doesn't have to be online. When you can take the time to be introspective and honest with yourself, oh my gosh, that has so much leverage, so much leverage. We want to be drunk, and sometimes we want to follow people in order not to deal. We don't want to do the experimentation on ourselves, and we don't want to take calculated risks. So, no offense, we put it all on Jesus. No offense to Jesus. We put it on the political leaders. We put it on. We want everybody else to take the responsibility, and it's their reward. Same thing, we can complain about a company, and we can complain about the heads of the company. Yet whoever takes the most risk usually gets the most reward. So if you're in another position, then maybe it's for us to weigh out and take calculated risks, right? So all that to say, I found some of the most wonderful clothes ever, vintage. I would have to say this point in my life, and I spent a lot of money on clothes. When I look back, it was so much land. There was so much land. I didn't know about purchasing land. That wasn't conversations that was had about around me. I found ways to travel inexpensively and safely, but there's a lot, those conversations weren't had, so I think perhaps a lot of energy is being kind of squandered and wasted when we could be having rich experiences that will also contribute to grounding you in your esteem. And what do I mean by you being grounded? I mean you being not so moved by what people say about your appearance or about your hair, or you being comfortable with, I don't need to overspend. I have something else on my trajectory. With perhaps you being more comfortable with, I don't have to eat or drink or smoke what everyone else is doing in order to fit in. With you perhaps being more comfortable, or us being more comfortable to really manage one of the most valuable resources, which is our time, to develop the mental fortitude to be able to study and to focus. Do you realize a lot of us are losing our ability and capacity to just focus? You could really come out of your 20s with another language. And the internet has made available so many skills that you have access to for a fraction of the cost. But many of us don't have the focus, or we're so busy with, what do they call it? FOMO, fear of missing out, that we will put our bodies and our reproductive organs and our heart and our lungs and our colons in harm's way and pay for it. Isn't that nuts? So these are just my little thoughts and meandering. So I was taking a picture of, I thought I'd take a picture of some fashion and some styling. Just my own little contribution. Again, these are just things that I found. I found you can have so much fashion when you understand how to elements of proportions and your body type and colors. They're principles. Again, I love principles more over people and personalities. Principles can really level the playing field, really leverage a lot. Just like those lifestyle activities, garden therapy, peaceful consumption, food that loves you back and that demonstrates it, and also enacting a personal movement practice. They will give you back so much more. They will serve you and support you when fickle people leave you, when they're fickle. Your lifestyle practices, leverage lifestyle practices. So when I get a moment, I'm going to share that video again. These are, I'm calling them Afro flower or a flower lifestyle practices. Learning how to grow things to luxuriate for your hair, to have a movement practice wherever you're paying rent or mortgage. Why? Because it makes you feel better. It's a benefit to look better, but it's a deep form of therapy that you have access to. A garden is a very deep, I'm not trying to sound esoteric or astrologic at all. I'm being very practical. It's a deep form of therapy, and it's not something just to be intellectualized. It's something to be experienced. That's different. So it's no wonder that we're so hooked on all these celebrities and all of this fantasy. It says that our experiences are lacking. It says that they're not really fulfilling. It's like eating junk food. When I was young, at one point I realized I ate 8 bags of potato chips and I'm still not full. It occurred to me to take a potato, and back then I put Lowry seasoning salt on it, and I was satisfied. I was like, oh my gosh, it's not real food. It's been so compromised, it's not real anymore. So how does that principle, how can that relate to us and experiencing ourselves with, we call these things imperfections, but this is just what it really is. You can manipulate it, you can style it, whatever, but this is what it is. Can you feel comfortable in the hair and skin that you have been divinely assigned? Whatever your position is in life right now, can you work with what you've got? Can you make good decisions from what you have available to you? Or we rush into relationships not vetting people and not seeking counseling or therapy, not handling our business. This is a day and time where you're encouraged, you're so overstimulated to go out and not sit and get to the root of what the issue is and where we need to get into action around the things that we say are important to us. So this is Body-Culinary, aka Kwasa Peaceful Eating. Just coming to check in with you. If you like this kind of content, there's a bunch of content. I realized too, a lot of people don't realize there's quite a lot on this channel. There's a whole puppet series on this channel. Sister Butterfly and Sister Monkey Learn to Eat Better. There's relaxation videos. There's workouts on here. I put some of the workouts before they go over to the private Body-Culinary website. I invite you to treat yourself to Whole Living Foods in the Hood with menus to fit your budget. If you would like some insight and a shortcut into the mindset, people want the recipe. The recipes, that's not hard. It's the mindset. It's the mindset. Have you made a decision and a litmus test and a standard for what you're going to allow into your body, whether that's people, products, foods, non-foods? It's the mindset first. If you don't have a big enough why, most of our endeavors have an expiration date. They won't last. So I give you some insight into how I, as a junk food junkie who would, have half of a thyroid who like to eat. I have an African-American and Afro-Caribbean cultural background, how I came off of junk food. Some of us may not even acknowledge. It's very easy to make excuses for habits that are not beneficial to us. But in any event, there is several different shopping lists with whole, fresh, unprocessed foods. It's not TVP. It's nothing fake. Many of us, you know, if you stuck us in a whole garden with full of unprocessed foods, many of us might not know what to know with all that food. So I'm all about reenact ways of mother, grandma. Your body, your skin, your colon, everything will respond to whole, fresh, unprocessed foods. So anything you do, the process and keep it to a minimum so you know exactly what is in the food. On Sundays at 2 p.m., there is coaching, whole living foods and fitness. If that's something you'd like to take on as a lifestyle, you'll find your own ratios and your own spot on your journey. But there is coaching that is available. You can reach out to me at info@body-culinary.com. There's still ongoing this whole year is the Afrolocks Freedom Hair Challenge. That video is on this channel. So maybe perhaps you may want to explore. I wonder, even if my hair is fine, because my hair is fine, what will happen? What will it do if I leave it alone? I found my scalp has never felt better. I feel totally free. I'm using aloe, nopales, teas, and rinses from my garden. That's so much time and energy that I've freed up for other things. And it is really something to sit with your own internal dialogue and to listen to the feelings sometimes that are not so positive that come up around you and your hair. So it's an opportunity to invite more ease and relaxation and to address and to deconstruct a lot of the negative thoughts and feelings and emotions we have about our own hair and our skin. So in that vein, I used to have a tremendous amount of acne. There's natural beauty, no products. You can see my little fine hair before it locked because I didn't want it to lock and I embraced it. And also I had a truckload of acne. So I use food on my hair and my skin. That's it. It's real simple. I find it relieves I find it relieves a lot of stress, right? So in this channel, in this little corner of the universe, I would like to say natural bodies, they matter. They matter to me and I think we deserve to feel healthy in our own and attractive in our own hair and skin. And we're at our most attractive when we are healthy. That's mentally and emotionally and physically, right? And a lot of that is lifestyle. It's not about getting 5 million powders and potions. And it can be very, very sustainable. It's the lifestyle practices. So shout out to Carolyn and Dora and Israel 61, sending you all some warm, positive vibrations. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I post from time to time as Kwasa with a K, peaceful, like full belly eating on TikTok, a little on this YouTube channel, and on Instagram as Body-Culinary. There will be a retreat. It's only going to be limited spaces that will be joining me overseas for the garden, for living foods, and for a movement practice. And the goal is for you to really return home ready to start your garden and upgrade your garden, to have a lot of rest and relaxation, do a lot of nature, to really get your skills down pat so you feel like whatever you put your hands on, you can make delicious food from whatever you touch at the market and whatever you have stored, right, in your pantry. And I'm not talking about from the cans either. So there will be a treat coming up. Let me see. We may do likely a inner city retreat all day. Let me know if you all are interested in that. For those folks that are not able to travel, I think I will make something else available. So let me get out of here and go to the market. Market day is my favorite. Oh, and I'm also teaching today for those folks that are on this side of the world. I'm teaching a class. It's going to be a community class, just like our Friday classes are community classes. So feel free to join. That's got to get up early though. A lot of benefits are when you get up early. So my grandma Lou got up early. If you can't get up early, that's fine. That doesn't make you a bad person. Yet there are people that show up early and they get results because they get up early. The world is quiet. You have access to a whole lot of coaching, corrective exercise, learning how to use your heart rate monitor, all of that. We hit it, quit it, and then you're ready to start your day. So Monday through Thursday is Harriet Squats, the Body-Culinary signature workout, and Fridays is a community class. You have to fill out a form, so I know who you are, what your avatar. I can identify who the person is, because safety is non-negotiable. I'm not having any conversations with people around safety. It's not a conversation. If I can't identify you, I don't do the sense of entitlement thing, because we don't know each other. So healthy boundaries, that's a principle, are really, really important to me. Hopefully you set a standard of healthy boundaries for yourself, because folks can get it twisted out here with this internet. So on my way to the market, I will make the effort to share more in the community section. My sloppy buns and hairstyle, I swear this hair is so free, and I've been going like this. Somebody like, oh, I love what you did with your hair. And there's no oil, there's no slicking going on, nothing. I'm playing around with a little hat, little vintage dress. My wine, I got very few jewelry. Child, I'm keeping it simple, and it is so freeing. All right, see y'all. Create a great day on purpose. Like, comment respectfully, and subscribe. See you soon.